Dear learners, welcome to live teleconferencing session. In this session, we will discuss about the key concept of ecology. This topic is coming under MPA 032. The program is that postgraduate diploma in disaster risk reduction and management. So let's move into the topic. Have you ever noticed why the birds are singing in the morning, and and why the trees growing towards the sunlight, or why the fish is living in the water? Okay, have you ever noticed have you ever thought about that? Because all these questions are explained as a science by that one word that is called ecology. Ecology is the science that help us to understand the relationship between living organisms and their environment. In Hindi, living organism को हम जीव बोलते हैं. Okay, it explains how how the life is on earth is connected. So these are the things often we do not notice. From if you take into the from tiny insect to large forest, ecology studies that it is its lives are varies at different levels. It looks at individuals, populations, communities, ecosystem, and even entire biosphere. So ecology helps us to understand why some species are abundant while others are rare. Okay, ecology helps us to understand why some species are abundant and while others are rare. It explains, that it explains how that why some things are abundant while other species are not, because it depends upon the food availability, temperature, water, and competition after survival and the reproduction. But ecology is not only about nature, that it helps us to understand and the impact of our environment. Like for example, if you take it, human activities such as pollution, deforestation, climate change, these things used to disturb the natural balance. Through ecology, we can understand or we can predict the impacts and learn how to reduce the environmental damage. If you take it to the most importantly, ecology guides us. Okay, it's guide us in conserving biodiversity. Also, it teaches to use natural resources responsibly and sustainably. By learning ecology, that we can learn more from science, and we learn from responsibility towards nature and future generations and all. So first, before we go into that, first we will discuss about the term ecology. The term, that it was first coined by Ernest Haeckel in 1866. Haeckel has found this word from the Greek word okios and the logos. The okios means household or home, and the logos means it's a study. So both the word, it has created the word ecology. It is a oikos and logos. Both the word created the word ecology. So, if you took into that, as per that Ernest Haeckel, he described the study of relationship between organisms and the environment. He believed that it is a type of that have a kind of a home, like even if the bacteria or whatever it is, even if a small insects also, they are living in a kind of a home. Okay, for that it is called the that ecology. And if you took into the ecology in the collective sense, okay, collective sense, it's a dynamic interrelationship of the community with its total environment, and also it is the branch of the science that studies the interaction between that organisms and the environment. Now the questions arise: what kind of interaction is this? Okay, the interaction between organisms and environment are complex. That if you include many factors like physical components and biological components of the environment and the different interaction between the various organisms and all. If you want to know, understand the ease interaction, it's very critical, and it will, that how help how ecosystem function, and that how they can be managed and how they can be conserved. The field of ecology include, that it is a kind of a sub-discipline, including population ecology, we have a community ecology, we have ecosystem ecology, and many types also there. Each of these sub-discipline, that it focus on the different aspect of the interaction between the organism and the environment. It has broad implication. Sometimes that main areas of like conservation biology, ecosystem management, agriculture, forestry and fisheries, and the study of environmental change also. And now let us move into the definitions. That Odom has mentioned that it is a ecology is the scientific study of interaction, okay, that determine the distribution and the abundance of organization. Here he has mentioned the three words. One is the interaction, distribution and the abundance. Here interaction in the sense any, that ecology is the any organism small one, that is what it depends upon, that needs the water, air, soil, weather or light. And the same way distribution is like kind of a thing like fish only lives in the water, and the another thing is that many things are live in the desert area. It depends upon the interaction. And the abundance, how many organisms are staying there. So here you have to understand that mostly that the abundance of the organisms depends upon the that water, air, soil, weather and the light. It used to decide the whether it is abundance of organisms or it is a very tiny one. And if you move into the Hutchinson definition, he said that ecology is the study of economy of nature. Economy of nature in the sense what he was managed to say that he said that the nature is work like a well managed system. Okay, it's a kind of a system. Like for example, you can take it that plants make food using sunlight, and sometimes animals used to depend on the plants or animals for the foods. So here one or the other things are dependent on each other. So that's why he said that ecology is the economy of study of nature. And another definition that is that Haeckel has said that ecology is the study of the relationship between living organisms and the environment. And Tansley has said that that ecology is the study of interrelationship between living organism and the environment. While you see, if you see all the definition, okay, that emphasize the study of relationship and the interaction between living organisms and the environment, including the physical and the biological factor. So these things used to that influence the interrelationship and all. They also bring interdisciplinary nature of ecology, that it takes concept from biology, physics, chemistry, geology and other fields to understand the complexity of the ecosystem. So understanding relationship between organisms for so critical for understanding that whether it is a distribution, whether it is abundance of those organisms in the environment. Overall, if you look into that, by that by studying these relationships, we can better predict how changes in the environment, okay, such as climate change or habitat destruction, or sometimes that how may affect these populations and also. So now if we are moving into the history of ecology, the history of ecology we can take into the that taken back to ancient civilization. The ancient civilization they could establish a deep understanding of the natural world. For example, the ancient Greeks created a sophisticated system of classifying plants, animals. Likewise, the Chinese has developed an intricate system of agriculture management that relied on understanding of ecological principle. When it comes to the modern ecology, it is often that mostly it used to attributed to the work of Charles Darwin and the Alfred Russell in the 19th century. The Darwin's theory of evolution, what it says that by natural selection provided a that mechanism and that how species evolved over time. And also Wallace works on that biogeography. His work on biogeography provided like that how it is emerged into the like for example into separate discipline. Like Ernest Haeckel, he was a that uh, contemporary supporter of Charles Darwin, and he was influenced by the Charles Darwin evolution of natural selection. However, if you look into the contribution of ecology, where based on his own observation and also studies of the natural world, and not solely depend upon the Charles Darwin's work. Around the same time, that Russian biologist Vladimir Vernadsky, okay, he said that developing a concept of biosphere. What do you mean by biosphere is that thin layer of the life that surrounds the sun. In the that, and after that in the late 20th century, the British ecologist Arthur Tonsley, he said that introduced the concept of ecosystem. That it defined as the system of interacting organism and the environment. And also so Tansey's work mostly laid on the foundation of modern ecological search, and it helped to establish ecology as a distinct and different discipline also. If you look into that, in the mid 20th century, ecology became a increasingly important study of that humans, and the human beings being the greater impact of the natural world. The work of, like if you take it the largest Carson, he has written that one of the influence work, that is the Silent Spring. Okay, it helped the people that understand the awareness about the environmental impacts of the human activity, also such like a pesticide user also. So today ecology is a broad and that interdisciplinary field that encompasses many that different areas of research, from the study of living organism in the dynamic ecosystems also. So next is that we will discuss about the components of ecology. In the components of ecology, there is two components are there. One is the biotic components, and another one is the abiotic components. When it comes to biotic components, it means that ecosystem composed of living organism, and the abiotic component is that ecosystem composed of non-living factors. Now we will see each component in a manner. When it comes to biotic components, it is a living parts of the system. Living part of the system include what you say that we can say that plants, animal, and micro organisms. So these living components perform essential that essential function, like allows ecosystem to serve remain balanced. One of the most that important functions of the biotic component is that protection of the food and energy. If you look into that, plants play a central role in this process. They called primary producers because they prepare their that own food using sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water through photosynthesis. So these food become the source of energy and for all the living organisms in the ecosystem. The energy that energy produced by plants is transferred to the other organisms through food chains and the food webs. So that way it plays a major role. Like another thing is that herbivores, that it used to obtain energy from the eating plants, which carnivores and omnivores obtain energy by eating other animals. So in this way, the energy flows from one level to another, or you can say that one level to another level of the ecosystem of another, or that supporting life at each and every stage, and it's not go waste. And another, like you can take that decomposers such as the bacteria, and you can say that fungi, when it break down dead organisms and the organic waste that into simpler substances. So these nutrients are returned to soil and water, and they are reused by the plants and the growth. So this kind of a recycling process is essential because it helps to accumulation of waste and ensures continuously availability of nutrients, that when it comes to without decomposers, ecosystem, that would also lose their fertility and productivity over the time. So together, if you look into that, producers, consumers, and the decomposers, they all together work as an integrated system. So each component, each group dependent upon the other system for the survival. If any one is disturbed or removed, the balance of the ecosystem is affected. So thus, biotic components, that perform a crucial function for the productive energy, transferring it through food chains and recycling nutrients, and also you can say that maintaining the stability and the sustaining of the ecosystem. And also, so we can say that without biotic components, and ecosystem cannot survive. And also, so when it comes to biotic components, that within a ecosystem, but it not exist in the isolation. Okay, it used to be continuous process only. They constantly interact with each other, and these interactions play a major role in maintaining balance and the stability in the that environment. So one common type of what to say that one common type of interaction is called the competition. So organism always that often compete for limited resources, like for example food, water, space, and sunlight, and the population sizes are so naturally regulated, and they can also the preventing the overuse of the resources. So another important concept is that predation. This relationship, one organism called the predator feels the another organisms, so knows the prey, and the predation helps, and also it controls the population levels, especially in the herbivores, and the prevents the overgrazing plants. And also mutualism. When it comes to mutualism, it's a kind of a real interaction between the both species benefit from each other. For example, plants and pollinators, that depend on one each other, and like plants, that receive help of the reproduction, and while pollinators obtain food. Such interaction, that it makes the ecosystem stable, and the also that efficiency also. So another important, like for example, if you look into that, another component is the abiotic components. So when it that abiotic components, there is a kind of when you study about the environment, like our attention mostly goes to what you used to say, that we always used to say about the plants and the animals. But however, that living organism cannot exist on their own. Mostly not the mostly, always dependent completely on the non-living environment. That is we called abiotic components. Abiotic components are slow that like it is a kind of a physical and the chemical factors present in the ecosystem. They include like water, air, soil, sunlight, and the the temperatures, rocks, minerals, and the nutrients, whatever you can take it. So all these components are lake of life, but they strongly influence the function. If you look into that, these like a non-living environment, if you doesn't have a water, if it doesn't have a air, if it doesn't have a soil, if it doesn't have a proper sunlight, if it doesn't have a proper temperature, rocks, mineral, nutrition, what will we do the living organism? So the living organisms are always dependent upon the non-living organism, that is called the abiotic components. So these non-living that components always decide the structure of the system. Like for example, if you have a more water, then agriculture would be flourish. Then agriculture flourish means it's the livelihood and the growth of the people, that development of the area also very good only. And that if they have a proper sunlight, if they have that proper air, if they have a proper soil, so everything is totally depends upon that only. So for example, regions with fertile soil and the adequate rainfall, it always that supports the dense vegetation, while regions with poor soil and that limited water source, that it leads to sparse life. So these abiotic components play a major role in regulating water system process. They control the temperature, they control the moisture levels, and they also control the nutrition availability of all the, and also it also affect the growth, production, and the survival of the that organism. In addition, you can say that abiotic components are support the energy flow in the ecosystem. And also when it comes to that as I mentioned earlier, sunlight, sunlight is the major resource. It acts as the that source of energy, and it enabled the plants to carry out the photosynthesis. A rise in temperature and it will reduction in water availability and loss of soil fertility, disturb the ecosystem, and the reduce the biodiversity. So abiotic components are forms the basic foundation of the ecosystem. Okay, understanding these non-living factors is essential for understanding ecology, environmental damage, and the need for the sustainable management of natural resource. And also not that when it comes to abiotic components, and we have to see how they are actually function in an ecosystem. Among all the abiotic factors, water is the one of the most important one. So in the every living organisms, they need a water in survive. Water helps the that it regulates the temperature of the ecosystem, and it supports essential life process. It also necessary for photosynthesis, and it also necessary for the food production. Next comes to the air, which made up of that oxygen, or you can, and carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and that oxygen is required for respiration of in animals and plants, and carbon dioxide is essential for the photosynthesis, and air also helps in distributing heat and thereby maintaining the balance of the society. And also, so that way that you have to understand that the biotic components and the abiotic components are totally both are that dependent on of the each other. So now we are moving into the types of ecology. In the types of ecology, first we are discussing about organismal that ecology. It is that it's mostly focused upon the individual organism and how it survives in its environment. Okay, instead of studying groups, or you can say that ecosystem as a whole, it mostly focus upon the how single plant or animals that respond to the environmental condition. For example, every organisms face challenges such as changes in temperature, availability of water, availability of food, and the presence of the predators. So this ecology helps us to understand how these that organisms adapt to these challenges, and how these challenges can be different for each time. So some kind of physiological adaptation involve internal process such as that maintaining body temperature and the conserving water. For example, you can take that desert animal. Desert animal have a special mechanism to reduce water loss, or you can say that while cold region animals that it's very difficult to heat or survive the low temperatures and all. And if you look into the behavioral adaptations are actually that it responds to the environment only. Like for example, these type of organismal ecology, they considered physical and the morphological features are that it help the organisms survive, such as that body shape and the temperature. So studying this type of ecology that we understand how individual organisms survive in the changing environment, and also this help us that explain how their survival and distribution and adaptation to these species in the nature. Another thing is that morphological ecology. Morphological ecology is that it mostly focuses upon the physical characteristics of the organisms. It helps us to understand the shape, size, and that structure are adapted to the environment. Every organism that has a body from the parts for survival. For example, you can take it the shape of the plant leaf that is not random. It is designed to capture maximum sunlight for the photosynthesis. Similarly, the shape of bird's beak also closely related to its that feeding habit. whether that if it eats or other say insects or nectar, mostly based upon the nature only. So these physical adaptation develop over time, that organisms that respond to environmental pressures such as like climate change, food availability, habitat conditions. So these morphological ecology closely linked with the function and the survival. And another thing is that it is very important from a conservation perspective. We have to look at that by understanding how the organism that took into the environment. We can predict the habitat and supports for the survival, especially in the context of the endangered species. So these adaptation explain how survival in the changing environment also. And another that type of ecology is that population ecology. Population ecology, that it explains how population can change over time. It is a kind of a branch of ecology, mostly to study the populations, which are groups of organisms, which are they are belong to the same species in a particular area, and rather than that concentrating on individual organisms, population ecology explains that how population grow, how population decline are distributed across over state, space, and time. So understanding population behavior is essential for explaining that how ecosystem functions, and that how species are survive, and that depends upon the population growth. And that population growth also depends upon the birth rate, death rate, immigration and emigration. And also, so these are the things are considered as depends upon the ecology of population. And also this population ecology, that it examines the age structure, age structure of that population, which refers to the population of individual age at the different groups and all. So another important concept is the type is the community ecology. When it comes to community ecology, it explains how species live together and ecosystem functions. Like for example, in the community, in the sense group of people living in the same area or in a area, that is called the community. So how interaction among the different species living together in a particular area is a ecological community. Instead of examining that single species, community ecology look at how multiple species are coexist and influence each other, and how they are interact with the in the physical environment. One of the that critical concerns of community ecology is that the species diversity. Okay, communities differ from number of the contain, how abundant of each species, and how higher species diversity. And that we can say that when it goes to community, you can say that many things are there. Like for example, people living with the that livestock and the vegetables, that various plants and the human being, and the, that time that interacting with each is more important. And also, so when it comes to that next, why we have to study the ecology and what is the importance of ecology. Importance of ecology is that it maintains the balance of nature. Okay, it maintains the balance of the nature, because all the that if you look into the plant, animals, and the human being, all the three are interrelated, that mostly interdependent with each other. So and also this ecology, that it will help the biodiversity, and also it will that it will reduce the species extinction. And also there, if you study the ecology, that it will lead to the sustainable development by balancing environmental, economical, and the social. And also it understand and also it address the climate change in a proper manner. So towards the end, that we can understand that ecology means it is a interaction between living organism and the biological that environment, and it used to integrate various that like energy flow, nutrition, and the climate flow, and the human impact also. And the main the goal of major goal of ecology is that sustainability of earth interconnected system for the future generation. So if you look into that, ecology teaches how life and environment function together, and also the knowledge we gain today is that it will help the quality of life for the future generation and also. So thank you. Thanks a lot for the listening.